use cases of Web3 through DePIN. This episode of the DePIN Hub podcast is brought to you by Nodi, the new Node as a Service product by DePIN Hub. We've seen that 2025 is the opportunities of the node sales. There's a lot of projects with great opportunities, but to run a node is quite complicated. You need to understand Linux, technical terminology, servers, virtual servers, VPNs, VPS, a lot of complexities that you don't want to have to handle. And even if you do, you want to be able to sleep at night knowing that other people are taking care of that for you, right? Leave this work for the nerds. We guarantee that you're going to have the best service possible and all your nodes are going to be generating passive income for you every day without you having to do any work. So go to deepinhub.io/nodes. And that page, you're going to know everything that's happening in our Node as a Service product. And make sure to subscribe to the newsletter because there you're going to know everything that's happening, all the promotions, all the sales, all the great opportunities to make 2025 a great year for us all. Hello everyone, Daniel from DePIN Hub here. Today we're interviewing Ken Anderson, CTO of Tashi.gg, a company revolutionizing the gaming and esports ecosystem by leveraging Web3 technologies to create innovative solutions. Let's dive into the conversation, learn more about their journey, vision, and how everything of this fits into the DePIN ecosystem. Last week, we had Yom, a company doing something similar but different in the gaming industry as well. But anyway, I'm very stoked to talk to you, Ken. We talked, I think, a couple of days ago. I'm very intrigued by Tashi. I would say it's like a Satoshi's cousin. And I'd love to know about the technology, all the crazy things that you guys are building. And yeah, super excited about that. Let's get started by you telling about yourself, your background, and your role at Tashi.gg.
Yeah, no, well, thanks for having me on, first of all. I am the CTO of Tashi, Tashi. We kind of joke that we're the distant cousin of Toshi, Satoshi. So, but I was, for a number of years, the chief developer advocate over at Hedera Hashgraph. I was one of the founding employees of that project. Before that, I was working in custom software development. I had a software engineering company working in telecom, and we had a project bring us into the Web3 space, wanted to build a blockchain app, and it kind of sucked us right in. And that was in 2016, really. So late 2016, early 2017, we got sucked into the blockchain ecosystem. And then mid 2017, I discovered Hedera Hashgraph. And then in 2018, when we started Swirlds LLC and eventually Hedera, I was one of the founding employees of that company. Now, I spent 3.5 years working on that project. One of the things that was kind of my dream from the beginning was to take the Hashgraph algorithm and do some really cool stuff with it. I had kind of a vision of what we could do with that in consensus between peers. And when I left Hedera, I thought, what can we do? And so we started Tashi. We put together a number of founders and put together some of our own funds and went out and built a proof of concept. And our proof of concept was basically a Rust-based consensus engine. And we built a horse racing application on top of that, where you just smash your space bar as fast as you can. And the person who hits the space bar 100 times the most or the fastest was the winner of the horse race. And you can kind of see your horses go across the screen. And this was like, we spent like 2 months building this consensus engine. And to prove it out, we built this horse racing game on top of it. And we were just using it as a proof of concept, right? We just wanted to make sure that we could build something that was super fast and super performant. It kind of blew away our expectations, to be honest. Like, the finality on it was 30 milliseconds, 30 to 50 milliseconds on the consensus, which is like 2 orders of magnitude faster than just about any other consensus protocol. And we thought, where could we use this? Where would be a good place to go to market with this consensus engine? And we were like looking at our proof of concept, which was a horse racing game. And we were like, what if we could just strip servers out of multiplayer gaming? And everything was consensus based instead, like peer-to-peer, leaderless, fair, cheat-resistant, consensus-based. And so it was like this thing where, we spent years maturing the tech in Web3. And it was like the perfect time for us to go, okay, can we take the best of breed consensus algorithm? Can we optimize and improve it and tune it for a specific use case? And can we go to market to a specific market that has a need for this technology? And so that was kind of the birth of Tashi. It was like, okay, we built a game as our proof of concept, but we're really an infrastructure play. So the whole point was like, how do we remove servers from the multiplayer scenario using this technology that was born in the Web3 space over the previous, 15 years or 12 years.
Can you paint a picture on how games work right now? I don't know, like how like they have a server in the middle. How does the players connect with each other?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question, because I think it's a key part of our value proposition. As a matter of fact, I think it's potentially a revolutionary, and I hate using that word, overusing that word, but it potentially will change the paradigm of how we build multiplayer video games. So right now, like if you download Unity, Unity has two models that it supports natively. Server client, which means you have a server that is the authority of the game. It holds all of the information of the game, and clients. So all these clients connect to the server. Well, the server is the source of truth, and everybody listens to whatever the server says. And that's okay for games, right? This isn't money we're talking about. This is how do we create fun, interesting games. The problem comes in is developers have to pay for those servers. And in some cases, the network costs associated with those servers are as much as 40% of their entire revenue. Like it's expensive to run servers. You ask any gaming company and they're like, if I could get rid of the servers, on the small end, I'd save 2 to 5% of my revenue. I'd put that back into my profits. On the high end, it's as much as 40% that they'd be saving. So it's not just that we're making, more fair and maybe a more secure gaming environment for gamers, but we're also saving costs for developers. And so we're basically ripping the server right out of the equation. So that's the difference, is right now everything is server client, or sometimes it's called host client, where one of the players is selected as the server. And in that scenario, the host can do all kinds of cheats. They can like give themselves infinite lives or bullets or something like that. And so we mitigate that. That's how we do it different. So if we were to really think about what we're doing, what we're basically saying is instead of there being a single server that's the source of truth and all the clients listen to it, we're saying every client has a server embedded in their game, and all the servers behind the scenes between the clients are synchronizing with each other. That's probably the best way to think about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like each game is a ledger, like in the blockchain, and they're all syncing and make sure that everybody has the ledger in a way, right?
Well, that's it. So let me dig into that, because I think that's like the perfect observation for what we're doing. You can think of each game session as its own ledger, and all the players, our little SDK that we built, our little software developer kit, holds our consensus engine in it, and it's built into the game. So it's not like you're hosting another node somewhere else. It's not like you're hosting a node on your computer. It is part of the game. When you build the game in Unity or Unreal or Bevy or Godot, it's in the game. So you have the ledger logic built into the game, and all the players are playing with each other, and the ledgers are synchronizing with each other behind the scenes. So we like to call it like an ephemeral sidechain, or like a player mesh. That's the way we think about it, is each game is its own player mesh.
And you understand it like it's like super interesting. Yeah. No, just to understand, like, I guess the listeners out there, something that I mentioned last week was that video games is bigger than films, music, a lot of things combined, right? And just imagine how much, Blizzard spends on service for World of Warcraft or like Fortnite, all these games, they're super popular online games. I would be scared to know how much they spend just on AWS bills, right?
It's a lot. And like Roblox, I think it's something like $600 or $650 million a year is what they spend on server infrastructure. And I would think that the part that we would have an impact on is probably closer to around $250 to $300 million. But that's a great point. Like in a lot of Web3, what we're trying to do is we're trying to teach people about the value of like sovereignty and decentralization and like ownership of your data and privacy and security. We don't have to teach anybody anything. We're going into an existing $40 billion market, which is gaming infrastructure, and saying, hey, developers, do you want to save money and have the same service? That's all we're saying. Like, we don't have to teach anybody about decentralization. We don't have to teach people about key or wallet management. We're just going, hey, here's this tech that is going to save you money. So it's not like we're generating a market. This is one of the hard things about most projects, is like you're kind of being innovative about how to do something new. But now people have to change their behaviors. People have to, like, in many cases, incur costs because they want to get the additional value of Web3. But what we're saying is like, no, guys, just point your API over here and start putting your credit card number over here instead. And guess what? our entire decentralized network is going to handle all of the rest of it, all the settlement, all the service delivery, all of that stuff. So that's the direction we're going, is like, how do we disrupt the cloud for gaming infrastructure and introduce all this decentralized tech to do so.
No, I really love it. Like, forget about crypto side of things. Just the amount of things that you can enable small developers, like indie developers to build these games. Because a lot of times they get big constraints about the cost. Because, there's like one guy or two guys building on the garage while they have kids and have a wife and they have family that needs support. It makes it very hard. Just the amount of help that it can help the whole like indie developers and so on. That's like amazing. Can you touch a little bit about the crypto aspect of things? Like, why is the crypto important? The blockchain is important in this project.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few entry points into what we're building. Like, so maybe I should like architect this out, maybe paint the picture of our architecture a little bit. But we have the consensus engine, which is the multiplayer engine, right? That's the part that is removing the need for servers out of the equation. But even though we have a consensus engine that initiates our player meshes, creates these games, these game sessions, like there's other things you need. You need real-time chat. You need lobby services. You need matchmaking. There's lots of other services, cloud services that you need to make a game work that doesn't always make sense to run within that game session. So we built an entire DePIN architecture to support the player meshes, right? So we're in our vision, we're saying, let's take all the cloud infrastructure that currently supports gaming and move it to the edge and allow the gamers and developers to participate in the economy of that decentralized cloud, if you will. And so we've built a DePIN architecture. Okay, so we have money coming into the top of the DePIN from developers who are currently already paying for these services. So this isn't a new thing for them. We're just saving them money. They pay into that. That revenue gets distributed into the DePIN network. So into all the participants in the DePIN get paid out of that real world revenue. Now, what we have to be careful of is we have to make sure that the people who are providing the services in our DePIN, the resource nodes, right? The guys who are the machines on which relay and lobby and matchmaking and chat are happening are being honest. The best way to make sure people are honest is to make them put a stake up. Like, you stake some token. So that's the value of our token directly, right? So we have this Tashi token that we're going to be launching. We're going to say, if you want to host a node in our network, just stake Tashi. And there's a minimum stake required for you to be a node in the network. And if you do something bad or you fail to accomplish jobs successfully, we slash the stake. And then we take the slash, by the way, instead of burning it, we go and reward it back into the network. I know a lot of people are big into the slash and burn model because it creates, it's a deflationary effect, if you will. But in our case, we're basically saying, listen, we're going to be as streamlined as possible. When we slash somebody, we're going to go and reward somebody else who's doing a good job with their product. That way, we're not incentivizing people to like forcefully slash because the value of their tokens are going to go up when they slash. Anyway, there's all kinds of economic gaming you can do there, but so that's the first piece of where crypto plays, is our token is quite literally the security mechanism by which we secure and encourage good behavior on the network and prevent bad behavior. So that's the first piece. The second piece is like, we have to bootstrap our network, right? So we're building an entire rewards model around incentivizing folks. So similar to how Bitcoin, you've got your mining fees initially, and then you've got we've got your mining reward, and then you have the fees, right? As time goes on, the rewards decrease. The Bitcoin rewards decrease and the mining fees increase. And the idea is at some point in the future, in the far future, we're probably not going to get any more Bitcoin emissions, but we'll have fees there that supports the network that should take over. Same thing for us, right? Tashi is not only a security mechanism that you take real world value and stake it and prevent people doing bad things, but it's also a reward mechanism from our treasury to encourage people to participate in the network early on. And then as the network is more revenue driven and we have an organic, sustainable model of compensating everybody in the network, those will decrease over time. So kind of like a halving model that decreases over time. So that's another use for our token. Now, the part that probably most people are interested in, the people who are interested in the token, that's the value of the token right there, right? There's a legitimate functional use of it in our network. But there are a lot of people who are saying, well, what about play to earn and what about collectibles? We've already built connectors with over 20 different blockchains that are EVM-based blockchains that allows you to bring those assets into our player meshes. So when you're playing a game and you've got 8 players in your game, all 8 players go and lock up some assets in their favorite blockchain, whether it's Arbitrum or Polygon or wherever they want to lock it up. The players all witness that smart contract lockup and share that consensus between each other during the game setup and go, okay, I've just brought inventory from Immutable X into my game, right? So I now have this sword and this armor and this special hat that I'm going to wear that makes me fly, and we're going to play this game. And you can do stuff like in game, all the peers are witnessing what's happening in the game to each other. So if you and I are playing and your character kills my character, maybe you get a random item from my inventory. Maybe it's a high stakes game, right? Like a pink slip style game where, okay, now you get one random item and I don't know what that item's going to be. And you're going to, say you grab a sword or an armor or whatever, and then the game ends. When the game ends, everybody signs a multi-sig transaction that now goes back to the smart contract and settles all of those assets back to the individual smart contract accounts or to the blockchain accounts. So we've already built this integration with multiple blockchains. So this way, we're not being very specific about which blockchain we support. We want to support them all so people can bring their assets from any game into that session and then play the game and then settle back into the blockchain as they want. Same with play to earn, right? That we're providing a state proof from the game back to a smart contract, and you can do whatever you want with that data. You can do, if you wanted to do betting on games, if you wanted to do like predictions and prediction markets on games, or if you wanted to actually do rewards in games, you can do all of that with these state proofs that come out of our player mesh services.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you guys are an infrastructure provider for games, right? So you don't necessarily care if it's a play to earn or different kinds of games. And especially the good things that you're already building that infrastructure, so that if I want to build a play to earn game, I can just use Tashi, and then I don't need to worry about a lot of the things that would take me a long time to build. Can you talk a bit about the different components of the Tashi network? Because it's going to have one server that's going to be doing one thing, another server that's going to be doing like the lobbies. I don't know. What are the different pieces of the puzzle?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first and foremost thing is the player mesh, right? The player mesh is what we're trying to support. And the player mesh is every player is a consensus node in their own little private session, blockchain session, right? And they're using our consensus engine to play the game with each other. And our latency is anywhere between 30 to 50 milliseconds of latency on the consensus side. So it's very fast. It supports the vast majority of multiplayer video games out there, incredibly fast. It feels real time when you're playing the game. So that's the first thing, is the player mesh part. Then we kind of push the player mesh part to the side and we go, now we have the DePIN part, the decentralized physical infrastructure network part, which supports player meshes and other game services. When you're a node in the DePIN, the requirements for your node are really low, right? You could run one of our nodes on a Raspberry Pi if you wanted to. But like the long-term vision here is like, if you're a player, if you're a game player and you have Tashi built into your game, and maybe you're using the Tashi client, like a Steam client to launch the games, that client can be a node. So when you're not playing your game for 20 hours a day, you're earning money as a node, right? So the nodes, and we think of them as like DePIN agents. So we're doing this agentic DePIN. When you think of it as a DePIN agent, agents could have multiple roles. Each agent has a number of services installed on it, and depending on what the demand is from the top end of the network, from developers and from games, determines which role your node is going to fulfill. And your node could fulfill multiple roles at the same time, right? It might be acting as a failover node for consensus in one game, then acting as a relay for another game, and then serving as a chat client for another third game, or maybe even a community, all at the same time, or a chat server, all at the same time. So it could be doing multiple roles at the same time. And for each one of those, we count those as jobs. And each job has a different value. And the more jobs your computer does means you get a bigger share of the revenue pool at the end of the day. So every 24 hours, we basically cut a check and we say, okay, everybody based on your participation in our DePIN network, here's your reward for the day. These are the points you're going to get as a reward. And so those are the two major pieces, right? Is the player mesh and the DePIN network. Within the DePIN network, we really have two major layers. We've got the orchestration layer at the top, and we've got the resource layer at the bottom. When you're a node in our network, when you're an agent in our network, you are part of the resource layer. And your job is to successfully complete cloud-like service jobs that are coming from the games. The orchestrator is, or the orchestration layer is multiple nodes with a bigger stake. Initially, they're just going to be trusted parties, but over time we want to open it up and just say there's just a higher barrier to entry. But if you come in as an orchestrator, your job is really to accept jobs, route jobs to the correct agents, and to validate that the jobs got done, and then reward those agents for the job's successful job completion. And that's the job of the orchestrator node. So it's a little bit beefier of a node because it holds a little bit bigger ledger, but that's how we separate it. Is you've got the orchestration layer, and then you've got the resource agent layer.
Thanks for the explanation. I think that you can picture the whole infrastructure a little bit better, and hopefully I can also run an orchestrator because I love running infrastructure. That's what I do for fun, maintaining these whole things. Do you guys already have a token ecosystem that you're going to release on? Like the main, let's say, supply is going to be on Arbitrum or something like that.
Yeah, that's I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that for a little bit. I will tell you, we've got two, maybe a third contender right now. Tokenomics, I think we just buttoned that up this last week. So we've been working with a number of tokenomics teams. We've been socializing it. I think we've got like an incredibly solid tokens architecture. Like this is gonna, when we launch it, people are gonna go, oh, this makes sense from a business perspective. Like this isn't just a token play. This is like a sustainable revenue model. Right? That's what we're trying to flip the script on, right? We want people to be excited about the early token launching, but we think about it just like when you're launching a product. You're going to spend more money in the beginning doing the marketing to get your product off the ground. But what we want to think of is like long-term, how do we ensure that our node operators are always going to get compensated forever and ever? And how do we make that more and more money over time as we change the gaming industry? So I think people are going to be really excited about the tokenomics. I'm not going to talk about which chain we're launching on, but we've got two solid candidates and a third one we're considering. I don't know that it matters so much from a technology and performance perspective because a lot of them are just the same smart contracts. So that part's done for us. It's just figuring out which of the chains are going to partner with us best. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to like throw any shade or make any suggestions about where we're going to launch just yet.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. To be honest, when I talk about blockchain, of course, like there's the EVM world, there's the SVM for Solana, but I do think that blockchain should be and is a commodity. All of them should be cheap, fast, and very easy to work with. Like the same way that when I open a game or like a website, I don't care who's hosting the thing in the back as long as it's working, right? Like I don't care if those website is on AWS or Google Cloud or Azure or whatever. And I think that should be the way to go. And especially if you work on the EVM ecosystem, then it's very easy to translate from one place to another as well, right?
And our goal from the integration perspective is for us to support play to earn and collectibles on all the blockchains, right? That's our goal. So whether we're going SVM, EVM, native tokens on Hedera, like wherever we're going, our goal is to support those ecosystems from an integration perspective.
Nice. Perfect. Awesome. Okay. So if you want to compact the timeline of where you guys started, where you guys are now, and the goals for 2025.
We've been at this for 2 years now. We spent the first year doing a lot of proofs of concept and product market fit. So the whole first year was us going into the gaming industry, talking to the biggest game developers. And when I say the biggest game developers, I'm like, if you've got a game installed on your phone, we probably were talking to those guys. We talked to Epic, we talked to Unity, we talked to all the biggest game engines as well. So what we came to the conclusion of at the end of the first year was everybody was saying, when you guys crack this nut, come back to us and we're going to use your tech. But the first thing they said to us was go get 100 games running on your technology and we'll be game number 101, is what all of the biggest game companies in the world said to us. So obviously they want us to de-risk it for them, right? So which is fine. This is all part of our strategy. We spent the first year doing product market fit, making sure that we understood our market well, that we understood there was a $40 billion existing spend that we can tap into and disrupt. And that there are customers willing to pay for what we're building. So that was the first year. I feel like most people don't do product market fit, especially in Web3. They come up with a great idea. It's a brilliant idea, by the way. Many of these ideas are incredibly brilliant ideas. But the first question I always have is like, what's your total addressable market? What's your TAM? In our case, I can say it's 40 billion, right? Easy, done. Okay, now we know that we've got a market. We've spent our first year doing product market fit. Second year was preparing the technology for our player mesh and DePIN launch, right? So this is the second year has all been like preparing for our go-to-market. 2025 is our go-to-market. It's the first phase of our go-to-market strategy, which is we're going to launch our DePIN, we're launching our token, we've already got over 50 games that we're in discussions with right now. We've got a handful of games that are actively building into our tech right now. So we're doing a lot of design partner stuff right now to make sure that we've got great support, developer experience, and all of that stuff. So the next phase is really our node launch and then our token launch. And then the rest of 2025 is going to be us getting our nodes into the ecosystem and getting our first 100 games on the product. Next year, 2026, we're going back to our Web2 guys and going, we got 100 games. Here's the technology working. Let's do this. So, I mean, it's a very, very contracted timeline, right? Very optimistic. Now, I've built a lot of products in the Web3 space. I know things generally take longer than you say. I'm being very, very aggressive and optimistic about in 2026 being able to go back to the Web2 guys. But realistically, I've kind of budgeted 18 to 24 months from our token launch to accomplish that. So we've got some time to make it work. I gave myself a little bit of wiggle room in that, but that's the goal here for 2025 is to like games actually using the technology and getting the benefit and money savings and security and performance options and anti-cheat benefits of our technology like in 2025.
Super cool. Okay, I have like a Synology device in my home. I have, I think, around 15 to 20 or to 30 Raspberry Pis around my house. I have, like a 49 GPU just waiting around. How can I start like learning more about Tashi as a user and follow like how can I use it in very, very soon?
Okay, you're going to get some alpha here. So this is like nobody's heard this yet. I'm going to kind of formally and publicly announce some of this stuff at DePIN Day in Seattle this weekend. But just kind of like an early info, we are going to be launching Tashi.network, which is our domain. We have Tashi.gg, which is our current gaming website, but Tashi.network is going to be really geared towards node agents, right? So there are DePIN agents. You could run our technology on any one of your devices. As long as you have the minimum stake, you're earning rewards for each one of those devices, right? And as long as you have the appropriate network capacity to support all of the jobs that are going to be coming through, you're golden, right? So this is kind of a different play from what a lot of other people are doing, right? The Synology, provided that it has sufficient CPU and memory, which many of them do, but they're usually like 2 cores. Sometimes you get a quad core Synology device. Should be able to support this application. Synology is just Linux, right? It's usually Debian or something like that. All of your Raspberry Pis. I think most of them are quad core these days. So your 4 Raspberry Pi 4s and 5s would be able to support being an agent on our DePIN network. Again, our goal is to say, if you're a gamer and you've got a gaming computer, let that run multiple jobs for you in parallel and earn you a bunch of money on one device. So whether you have multiple devices running a bunch of nodes or you have one device running a bunch of services, the goal is for us to say, listen, if you've got the compute power and you're contributing to our network, we're going to make sure you get compensated. So the first thing is we're going to be launching Tashi.network. It's going to have an early access sign up for people. Shortly after that, we're going to be launching our AlphaNet. So stay tuned for that part. And that's where we really want to get people playing with the technology. As a matter of fact, we're going to be using the AlphaNet. You and I have had some discussions about this already, but we're going to be using the AlphaNet to refine the node agent experience. We want people, I want it to be the easiest install experience on earth and something you can install on any device that we support. So whether it's Linux, Mac, or Windows. So that's going to be the first couple of steps. I'm not going to go any further on promises about what's on the roadmap, but those are the first two things. Is we're going to get the early access sign up going here very, very quickly, and we're going to be setting up the AlphaNet shortly after that.
All right, you heard this first here, because I have, let me just, I think I have like a bunch of these devices as well at home. This more right now is more like a paperweight. It's like a helium hotspot from a rack. It's actually, the gold one is like a 8 gigs of RAM Raspberry Pi 4, and this one is going to be probably a Tashi network as well, because it's just like, on my shelf, just looking pretty, which is a very pretty device, by the way, right? But I do, like everyone out there that you have like a helium hotspot, especially a rack device that's on Raspberry Pi laying around, it's a great opportunity for you to start joining this project super, super early. Just make sure to check the website, tashi.gg, and very soon tashi.network. Where can people go and learn more about the project?
Yeah, I would say first go to Tashi GG, because on the Tashi GG page, we've got all of our socials there as well. Telegram is a great place to come in and start asking questions. I pretty much live in Telegram now, so there's a good chance that I'll respond. I will tell you, we're not looking for community managers. So if you're joining our Telegram just to ask if we want to hire a community manager, that's not the way to do it. But if you're interested in the technology and all of that stuff, Telegram's a great place. We also have a Discord, which is a little more technical. So if you want to join us on the Discord side and you're kind of a more savvy node operator, like I absolutely want to engage with everybody. Again, I'm the CTO. Generally, I'm building the technology, but my biggest interest right now is making the installation of these nodes as simple as possible for every node operator out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's make sure to also check DePIN Hub for Tashi. We're going to add them.
Yes, please.
I think by the time you check this, is going to be live as well. And we at DePIN Hub is going to try to see how we can help this project grow, because it's such a valuable thing for everyone, all the gamers out there, everyone in the world, to be honest. I think not only gamers, because people can, provide, the hardware supply side as well. Well, Ken, thanks so much for joining the podcast. I think I had a great time. I'm super excited about Tashi. And yeah, looking for the new website. I'm going to be the first one in line waiting to deploy some of those devices.
I look forward to it. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to many, many more conversations like this.
Awesome, man. Have a great day. Let's keep rocking.